Welcome back to Learn SKN, and today we're going to try and round off our coverage of the MOB Mayjune 2013 paper, Unit 1. Last time we finished looking at the Unit 1 paper 2 for May-June 2013, and so we're going to look at part of the May-June 2013 Unit 1 for MOB paper 1. We're going to start with the first 21-ish questions, and then the second video we're going to finish it off. Alright, so before we jump into it, you know what to do. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell. Alright, so let's just jump into it now. So number 1, the government payment to domestic producers in the form of a tax relief is known as, and so the answer here is a subsidy. C, a subsidy. Now a tariff is a tax that is paid on imports. A quota is simply a government putting a restriction on how much of something you can import. Corporate tax, of course, would be a tax charged to corporations at the maybe annual basis, whenever. So that's not the payment to domestic producers, but the payment to reduce production level of production, cost of production for locals, is called a subsidy. Number 2, business must operate under certain regulations in order to do which of the following, and you have some options here: be fair to employees, protect the environment, take advantage of prospective customers. And so you have the best answer here is all of the above, because there are laws and regulations in place to protect the environment, to protect employees, and to protect customers. You have customer rights, you have the ombudsman and things like that. You cannot exploit the customers, you cannot have false advertisement to customers, things like that. So there are laws in place to protect both the customers, the environment, and the employees, because you have labor laws, you have minimum wage laws, you have hours of work laws, those things to protect the employees. And also you have the environmental protection laws, you have anti-pollution laws and things like that to protect the environment. You have zoning laws, so you can't locate your business anywhere and things like that. So there are laws and regulations that protect all stakeholders, including the employees, the customers, and even the environment. So D. Number 3, which of the following is not a decision-making tool? And so this is a very interesting question. Decision-making tool. And so these are things that they use for a company a manager uses in order to come to a decision. I help him to come to a decision, him or her to come to a decision. And so we have the decision tree, of course. That's a trial and true method of trying to come to a conclusion. The decision tree, you put down all of the choices and the possible consequences, etc. And you map them out in a flowchart. And that's a decision tree. So you have B, quantitative data. Now you need data to make decisions. A lot of decisions today are data driven. Some of your best decisions are made when you use data. And so data is a key tool in making a decision. But the thing is, data alone just cannot do. You have to analyze the data and turn that into information so you can use it in the statistics and things like that, so you can see your numbers crunching numbers before you can make a certain decision. And the same thing with crunching numbers, you have a cost benefit analysis. Now that can be used to make certain decisions based on cost and versus benefit. And so if you run your numbers and you realize, okay, the cost more than the benefit, then that's something you might not want to venture in. But if it's the reverse, then you might want to venture this. So you can use those kind of analysis to come to a decision. But then you have D, which is the answer, critical path analysis. Now what critical path analysis simply is just outlining steps in getting something done. So in essence, by the time you reach critical path analysis, you would have already come to certain conclusions, already made certain decisions. They're already made using some other tool. But you put in the steps, the sequence of something in place. For example, the book has the example of you getting ready for school. We have some sequences, some steps. You wake up, brush your teeth, bathe, eat, yada 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 yada. You also put time in to each step. So this step might take 15 minutes, this might take 10 minutes. So you can basically map a path from start to finish for something. But the decisions are already made but by the time you're using the critical path analysis. And so that's why it's not, in my opinion, a decision-making tool. Number 4. The systems approach applies best to management because the system approach simply brings a lot of the old school ways and broaden them as you look at management. It looks at management as a bunch of different systems, subsystems that work together as one major system. And so a business, look at a business as such. And so everything is interconnected. You're cogging the system. And so the what best applies to this would be D, sees management as a continuous flow between function or departments. So it's a continuous flow. So all the functional areas are subsystems that come together to make the overall system of the business or the company. And so it's a flow. You don't leave them separate. Some are subsystems and they all work together as a one big system, like a body. Then we have number 5. Trade liberalization can best be described as the A, removal of trade barriers. Simply put, the removal of trade barriers, no tariffs, no quotas, no nothing. You just freedom of trade, and that's what you call trade liberalization. So that's A. Number 6, a multinational corporation can best be defined as, and so the best answer here is a business that has its main office in one country and operating bases in others. So that's the thing about the multinational. There's a company that has a main headquarters, a HQ, one place in one country, and then you have branches all over the world or in different countries that reports back to HQ. Unlike a franchise that, when you're on the ground, you're the owner for that part, not owner, but you're the main operator for that one. You have to report not really back to anyone, just the franchisor. Now the multinational, you have a branch, you have a main hub, and then you have branches around the world, and so that's what makes it different to some of the other types of businesses out there. Number 7, a public limited company may decide to go private in order to, and so you have some options here. So in some cases, you have some companies that go public. One of the reasons they would go public is, of course, to raise funds, raise capital on the stock exchange. And sometimes things get a little wobbly, a little bad, that they have to pull back. Like, for example, Dell Computers went public, and then somebody was trying to take over the company. And so Michael Dell pulled back and went back private to regain control of his company. And so we see one answer right here: regain control of the business as one, to eliminate the threat of takeover. Because remember, when you're a public company, persons can buy any amount of shares they want, and then eventually they can actually take over your company. They have too many shares out there. And so you might go private to rebuff that. So that's 2. So that's 1 and 2. Now they say 3, raise additional finance to purchase new equipment. No, this is counterproductive. If you want to raise additional capital, that's why you go public in the first place, so that you can put your company out there on the stock exchange, so that you can earn more money, can raise more capital. And so the answer is A, 1 and 2. Number 8, which of the following is the benefit of a multinational corporation to the host country? So the host country, now we're looking at benefits to the host country. Sometimes they might not be, some benefits might be less than the cost. Exploiting the people, exploiting the resources, etc. But one benefit of a multinational company to the host is increasing in foreign exchange earnings. So because they're doing business between multiple currencies, a US versus Caribbean currency, then the host country might be a Caribbean country, and so you have more foreign exchange entering the country. And so that's one of the benefits of a multinational to the host country. Number 9, the benefit which many large firms enjoy over smaller firms are referred to as, and the answer here, of course, is B, economies of scale. Economies of scale is one of the benefits of business going large, and so that as you go larger, you accrue certain benefits such as bulk shopping, financing, that the bank might easily give you money because you're larger, things like that. So economies of scale are the benefits that the firm get from increasing its production level. All right, so that's B right there. Number 10, one benefit of a private limited company over a partnership is that, and so we know that they normally compare the partnership to the sole trader, but every now and then they compare it to a company. And so there are certain benefits that you derive from becoming a company as opposed to a sole trader or a partnership. And one of the key things is A, shareholders have limited liability. Limited liability meaning that the amount of money that you put in is what you're going to lose. You're not going to lose beyond that. In partnership and in sole trader, at least in partnership, at least majority of the partners would have unlimited liability, meaning that if the company was to fail, they stand to lose more than they invested. Same thing with sole trader. But for private company, that's one advantage over all the other two, is that the shareholders have limited liability. So if you invest 10,000, that's all you're gonna lose. You ain't gonna lose your house, your car, whatever. So that's one key advantage right there. Number 11, which of the following is a feature of cost push inflation? As a cost push inflation simply is inflation. Inflation on a whole is where there's a general increase in price levels in the economy. And cost push simply mean that the cost of production goes up, and as such, the producers pass on that onto the customers in the prices. So the price is raised because of that. And so you have a high level of wages being the answer. Why? If the producers have to pay the workers more money now, the cost of production goes up, and as such, they would pass that on to the customers in the form of higher prices. And so that's why we have the cost push inflation right there. Most of the other type would be the demand pull, where everybody's chasing the same product, and because everybody is chasing a limited product, that carries the price up because of high demand. But this one is cost push, so you're looking at the production, the cost of production right here. Number 12. One main benefit of Caribbean common market to businesses in the member countries is, and so one of the key things about CARICOM, for example, is that there's basically free trade among its members. So there's a reduction in tariffs. So there's a free trade among its members. Items can come into each member country at basically free. Also, there's a common external tariff, meaning that when they're looking at outside trading, all of them have the same tariff. So that's one of the key benefits of CARICOM, a common market, reduction in tariffs. A firm practices ethical behavior when it A, recalls a specific batch of products because of flaws in a few. So a recall is a firm acting ethical so that they can prevent death or damage to persons. I mean, they're going to get sued anyway, so it's in the best interest to be ethical here. So if you say place emphasis on social responsibility than profit, something that's a bad thing, because sometimes the stakeholders, the shareholders, the shareholders, a company have its fiduciary responsibility of making sure that the company is in its best position. And so the main thing is profit, as a profit comes first. And so sometimes it's not really ethical to not give these shareholders the best possible returns for something else. Right, so you're not really up to the firm, it's up to the shareholders in a sense. Then you have pays large salaries to executives of course that's not ethical. That's poor practice right there. What you need to do when things tight, reduce the salaries of the executives and give it to the lower staff so that they can maintain a job. D, delay paying of suppliers. You should not do that because they have bills to pay also. Alright, so the best answer is recall a specific batch of products because of a flaw in a few. Number 14. Which of the following is an advantage of trade liberalization? They recovered trade. Have we covered that before? Anyway, so majority of these are not really advantages. A level playing field is provided for all countries. No small countries get squeezed all the time with trade liberalization. You see all this stuff coming in from the larger countries that have economies of scale. We get jammed like that in the Caribbean. Now B, home producers are protected from unfair competition. Again, that does not happen. That's protectionism. And liberalization means that there's no protection for the local producers. They have to man up and try to compete with the larger entities. The infant industries thrive well against competition from importers. Of course, reading that don't make no sense. Company just starting, how are they going to do well in trade liberalization with countries that have been, companies that have been established for years? That's not going to work. So the best answer is C. Customers are able to purchase a wider variety of goods. See, so for the company, kind of bad, but for the customers, no problem. 15. Which of the following is a likely benefit of globalization to the Caribbean countries? And so we have 4 options here. Now this is a very tricky question because if you look at it in a real way, some of these things are not really benefits, But the best answer here is C. The only reason I chose C is because it doesn't contain number 1. Because number 1 says increase employment. For sure, globalization does not increase employment for the Caribbean countries. It actually increases unemployment, because when you realize that you have the brain drain phenomenon, because persons can travel from to other countries to find work, and so that affects your employment level, especially in the Caribbean. Imagine persons can just go to America or England or wherever, the land of opportunities to get other jobs, and so they're going to do that, and that's going to impact the Caribbean because skills are leaving the Caribbean, and of course persons, the unemployment rate goes up. So that's the only reason I chose C, because if it's an improvement in the balance of trade, now this can be true in that you have wider markets now to export your goods and also import. But we're looking at exports now to improve balance of trade. But sometimes the reality is that your country, people actually import more than your country can export. And so that kind of gives you a balance of trade deficit. But the ability to improve the balance of trade actually exists still. Because if you're able to increase the exports to wider markets, because all of a sudden you have the American market, the European market, the Asian market to your disposal. If you're able to capitalize on that, then you can improve your balance of trade. The same thing with your balance of payments. If you can capitalize on the markets outside, then it can improve. But for the most part, we tend to be in deficit for balance of trade and payment because we do more importing than exporting, but the possibility exists. That's why they say likely benefits are likely benefits. They're not guaranteed, but they're likely because they exist, but sometimes they don't occur. And so I chose 2, 3, and 4. Of course, you know that 4 for sure got to be in, because it increases the customers' choices of goods, because you have a wider market to choose from. So 4 has to be in. So by process of elimination, A and B out, because it must have in 4, cannot have in 1, and so the answer is C. Alright, number 16. Which of the following statements best describe a feature of a centralized organization? And so centralized simply means that most of the decisions are made by upper management, the boss. The subordinates hardly have a say in anything. And so you have D, decision making lies within the upper levels of the organizations. Full stop. That's an example of the centralized area. Number 17, the flow of communication in a matrix structure reflects the interest of. And so you have different organizational structures. You have the functional, you have the geographical, you have the product, and of course you have the matrix structure. And so when you look at the matrix structure, you're basically looking at the flow of communication across the authority figures, because you have the upper management, the functional areas, plus whatever other management on a vertical axis. And so you have the flow of information or communication across authority figures. And if you look at this diagram right here, you see the matrix organizational structure, and so you have the flow going across, down, and so it intersects. So it's about the manager here, and the managers here. So it's all about communications within the manager. So they say a matrix organizational structure offers a different tactic to organizing. It is usually used where the environment is rapidly changing. The structure combines elements of function, product, and possibly geographical organizational structure. The matrix structure depicts 2 lines of authority. See, 2 lines of authority. It shows the lines of vertical authority and horizontal authority. So that's the matrix structure right there. It's about authority. Number 18, effective communications is distorted when. So the best answer here is body language and annotations are not aligned. So they're saying that when you're speaking and your body language, they are not aligned. For example, if you're giving some exciting news, but your face is just dead and your body language is poor, like, yeah, hooray, nobody can really believe you. You know, there's a miscommunication right there, because you look at the news sound good, but your reaction is poor. So what is going on here? So that's one of the reasons why this is distorts effective communication. Now, they say several media are used, but different people learn things differently. So that is why you have your Facebook, your Instagram, your WhatsApp, whatever. Whichever one reach you. So you can use different ones that doesn't distort the information. Verbal and non-verbal cues are used. Sometimes you're speaking and you have your hand gestures and things like that, and that can emphasize or hammer home the message, get the message across more effectively. So the best answer is C in this case. Number 19, which of the following theorist is known as the father of scientific management? And of course, the best answer is C, Frederick Taylor. Frederick Taylor. Number 20, which of the following is a non-financial reward? And so, you know, we're talking about motivation here. Some people are intrinsically motivated, some people are extrinsically motivated. Money is one of the motivators. And so we're looking at, but and is that everybody is moved by money. There's some rewards that are non-financial that can really motivate persons. And so A, gain sharing. Of course, that's money. You give them a little piece from when you increase your gains. C, lump sum bonus, money again. D, employee stock ownership plan, that's financial. So the best answer here is job enrichment. Job enrichment is one way in which you can reward, or someone can become motivated or reward without it being financial. Job enrichment, where you as a worker, as an employee, give someone a task and you broaden the scope of that task to try to enrich the overall job, and so that's somewhat motivating to some persons, and it's a reward for them. Number 21, which of the following would not be classified as a hygiene factor based on Hertzberg two-factor theory? And so the best answer here is, which one doesn't fit? Which one doesn't fit? Which one doesn't fit? Recognition, right? That's the one that is not a hygiene factor. Recognition. You have some persons being recognized for their job well done. That's not a hygiene factor. Working conditions for sure, you pay for sure, supervision for sure, but recognition is not a hygiene factor. All right, so I think that's, if remember, SCAPE is 45 questions. So if we divide 45 questions in half, the best we can do is at 22 here and the rest the next time. So let's go to 22 and call it a day for this video. All right, good. Which of the following is the least likely to be the objective of performance appraisal system? So which of the least likely to be an objective of the appraisal system in a business? And so we have some options here. To consider the advancement of employees. Of course, you appraise employees to see if they are able to be promoted. So that's one. That's not one. B, to recognize the future needs of employees. Of course, you have to go and see where employees are at and if they need training for whatever you're praising them for. And so you have D, to identify employees in the organization who are not coping. But so the best answer here is, of course, you can use appraisal to see the shortcomings of the employees so you can help them to, be better at the job. So the best answer here is C, to encourage the support and planned changes within the organization. So there's no way you go around appraising persons just to encourage support of a planned change in organization. The appraisal is all about the person's performance and how you can benefit you or benefit them or how you can improve it, things like that. So that's why the best answer here is C. All right, and with that, we are halfway through the Mayjune 2013 MOB Unit 1 Paper 1. That's a mouthful. All right, so to get to part 2, you know what to do. Like the video, subscribe. I think I told you at the top of the video, so do it. Subscribe, like, share, etc. All right, so thanks for watching, thanks for listening. Now you can go and look at the paper 2 video, or you can look at some of the lecture videos for MOB to help you get ready for that subject. All right, good.